Good morning, and welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I'm Worship Associate Celia Ortenberg, and I'm joined in facilitating this service by Worship Associate Sandy Atkins. As we await the arrival of our new minister in just a few weeks now, our worship associates have been created and offered by worship associates, worship services have been created and offered by worship associates and members of our congregation. Today's service was created entirely by one of our members, Chris Salata, and we are pleased to welcome Chris to our pulpit. Chris and her husband Jay have been Unitarian Universalists for 31 years. They live in Pasadena for 9 months out of the year, but we get them every summer. They love this church, and who can blame them? Chris was trained at the First Unitarian Church of Oakland to be a worship leader and has conducted several services from time to time in the past 30 years. She's a retired physicist who is fascinated by moral philosophy and evolutionary psychology. And I can't wait to hear how that background shows itself in today's service. I want to thank everyone who is sitting in the section nearest the windows for wearing masks. It's a place where people more comfortable wearing masks can sit comfortably. And of course, I have a few announcements. Our annual fundraising auction is well underway. If you've looked at the catalog, you will have seen a variety of many wonderful offerings. Today is the last day you can add an offering. It really is easy. This is the kind of stuff that scares me to death, but it is really easy to just go in to the UUCV this week, press a button, and there it is. Yay. Our auction kickoff party is scheduled on Saturday, October 4th, and our new minister, Eric Halseth, will be joining us. Yay. It's a potluck. So let's greet him with some of that fabulous food that I know all of you can make. The sign up for that is also on the auction website, and it is also very easy. So thank you for including your offerings of potluck food to make this a great event. Other things that you can look for in UUVC this week are the New to You program that will be next week after church, movie night for the Young at Heart on Friday, the men's potluck on September 30th, and traveling to Tijuana, Mexico in October with the UU Justice Ministry to build homes for those in need. And there is so much more. We are a vibrant community with so much to share and so much to give. So please, bring with you what is yours: a burdened heart, a joyous song, a wearied spirit, a seeking mind. Bring the gift of yourself to the altar. It is an honorable gift. Let us enter sacred space. I invite those of you who are Zooming or streaming into this service to light a candle or a chalice as at home as Chris lights the chalice of our free faith here in the sanctuary. Always something.
I once lit my hair on fire at a Christmas Eve service. The statement of our values says that we believe that every person is inherently worthy. A simpler way to say that is we believe that each and every person deserves respect. We like that because we know that we deserve respect, and we want that for our families and our communities. But there's a little puzzle here because we also know there are bad people out there who hurt people. So are they inherently worthy also? That's the question I'll discuss today, and whether we actually believe in that value. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Zach Spencer, and I invite you all to rise in body and spirit as we sing number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come one more time. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lovers of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
My name is Lily Rappaport. I'm the Director of Family Ministry. And today we're starting off something a little different, bringing back something old. So I'm going to call up the children, and before you come join me in front, to pass through the congregation for anyone who has some canned goods to donate. These donations are going to go to Ride Alliance 805, serving our immigrant neighbors. So if you would bring the food up here into the basket, and then you can join me up here in the front for the time for the child in each of us. Right in the basket over there.
I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Hey, it's so good to see some of you that we haven't seen for a while. Welcome, welcome. We'll be starting this new tradition again we'll see how it goes. And today we have a story for you by R.J. Palacio, We're All Wonders. And I don't know, she wrote a book before this called Wonder, and then they made it into a movie, but this is, I guess, a simplified version by the author, by the main character himself. We're all wonders. And you can see that he looks a little different in his picture, right? I know I'm not an ordinary kid. Sure, I do ordinary things. I ride a bike, I eat ice cream, I play ball. I just don't look ordinary. I don't look like other kids. My mom says I'm unique. She says I'm a wonder. My dog, Daisy, agrees. But some people don't see that I'm a wonder. All they see is how different I look. Sometimes they stare at me and they point or laugh. They even say mean things behind my back. But I can hear them. It hurts my feelings. It hurts Daisy's feelings too. When that happens, I put on my helmet. I put Daisy's helmet on too. And then we blast off, up, 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 up through the clouds, across the galaxy, all the way to Pluto. We say hello to old friends. And from far away, Earth looks so small. I can't see any people, but I know they're there. Billions of people. People of all different colors, people who walk and talk differently, people who look differently, like me. The Earth is big enough for all kinds of people. I know I can't change the way I look, but maybe, just maybe, people can change the way they see me. If they do, they'll see that I'm a wonder. And they'll see that they're wonders too. We're all wonders. And the last page says, look with kindness, and you will always find wonder. So let's use our kindness eyes, our kindness glasses, lenses, as we move through today. And if you would, in the middle aisle, stand up as you are willing and able, and let's sing the children out to their crafts and activities and programming.
Hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. Nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go.
Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our entire collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church. Those at home can give through a link posted in the chat or by texting from your phone to the number on the screen. Folks who are present in the sanctuary can text to give also, or drop a check or cash in the box at the back wall of the sanctuary after the service. Our offering today goes to our own InReach Outreach Fund to help people in the broader community who cannot get the help they need elsewhere, or to help members of our church. We recently used this fund, to respond to a request from an organization in Santa Paula that helps families affected by ICE. They reached out on behalf of 3 young people whose parents were involved in the Glass House raid. The students were beginning college and needed supplies for their first year to fund, and we used the fund to help these young people get the necessary books and supplies. And we were impressed to hear that one of them said she's going to school to become an immigration attorney. Through this fund, we reached out in love and furthered efforts to recognize the inherent worth of each individual. Thanks for giving generously, as you always do.
Isn't music just the best time machine? Wow. We're grateful for the generosity of this congregation, which helps us weave a tapestry of love that we call community.
Every week, this congregation takes time to share with one another the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives. We place stones in the water for each celebration or sorrow representing the way the ripples reach out to touch each and all of us. You can submit a joy or sorrow for sharing via a link on the website uuventura.org or in our Thursday email bulletin, UUVC This Week. Those received by 8 o'clock on Saturday will be shared on Sunday. But before we share those that were submitted this week, let's take some time out to honor Ted Lombard, who died on September 1st. Ted Lombard was a longtime member of this church community, first in the 1970s and then again in recent years. He was 96, just a month short of his 97th birthday. He and his lovely wife, Joyce Lombard, have been together for 40 years. Joyce said that Ted Lombard liked hiking the hills around Ventura, and she sent us this lovely picture of Ted. He was loved by so many in our church and beyond. He was kind and loving and a wise soul. We'll miss him. A memorial service will be held later in the year when the family and friends can all be together to honor and remember Ted. We light the memorial candle from the chalice flame and extinguish the chalice for some moments of silent reflection. The chalice flame will then be relit, and both will be extinguished at the end of the service. Here, try this. This one worked this morning. Fire is not our friend this morning. And thank you, Ted, for your patience. I invite you now to speak into this gathered community or write into the Zoom the names of those that you wish to celebrate or memorialize, or those in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. Linda, David, may you find courage. Sandy will now place one final stone in the water for all the joys and sorrows yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
I'd like to wish you all a happy autumnal equinox, which happens tomorrow at 11:19 a.m. It's a wonderful time of year, happens twice a year, when the days and the nights are of equal length in both hemispheres of the globe. So in the equinoxes, we're in perfect balance. I invite you all to remain seated as we sing number 1021, Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. Help you to carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Oh, just call on the brother when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Alice Walker said, "It's so clear that you have to cherish everyone." I think that's what I get from these older Black women, that every soul is to be cherished, that every flower is to bloom. I invite you into a time of meditation. If you will, close your eyes, place your feet on the floor, and envision cherishing every soul in the room. The music that Zach is going to perform next was written by Fred Small, and it's a little homily unto itself. Fred Small is a UU minister, an environmental lawyer who's been arrested many times for his activism, and a folk singer. He designed the UU Green Sanctuary program. And he wrote a beautiful song that I hope you know called Everything Possible. Many of his songs, including this one, are true stories. This song speaks of hidden worth.
Neighbor up the road brought the message. Joe and May never had a phone. 5 children grown and gone to college. Now they lived out on Pewaukee Lake alone. And the nurse at the big Milwaukee hospital said, "We got a baby here with no eyes. It's retarded, it's got cerebral palsy, 6 months old, living only to die." And we remembered that tiny English woman used to hire out as a nurse governess. "May Lemke, will you take this broken child off our hands?" And God loves a fool, 'cause she said yes. She said, "Leslie is different, like everyone in the world. He's kind of awkward, kind of fragile, kind of graceful, kind of tough. He's kind of slow, but he's kind of clever. He's just Leslie, and that's enough." He just lay there helpless and silent. Not a tear, not a smile, not a word. But they held him and rocked him and sang him to sleep and talked to him as if he really heard. And he grew with the sun and affection, and though his body was spindly and small, and 100 times they stood him with his hands upon the fence, and 100 times watched him fall. And their daughters warned it was useless. They said, "Mama, that boy will break your heart." She said, "Love never comes easy, and miracles mostly come hard." She said, "Leslie is different, like everyone in the world. He's kind of awkward, kind of fragile, kind of graceful, kind of tough. He's kind of slow, he's kind of clever. He's just Leslie, and that's enough." Maisie used to play the piano and sing the old songs from the war. And this was always music on the radio and the record she bought from the store. And sometimes they swore he was listening, though of course there was no way to know. Well, maybe he was flying in his own blue sky where no one else would ever go. Maybe he was lost in a forest where demons and wood spirits dwell. But for 16 years he had never spoke a word, never taken one step for himself. Well, they said, "Leslie is different, like everyone in the world. It's kind of awkward,
kind of fragile, kind of graceful, kind of tough. He's kind of slow, he's kind of clever. He's just Leslie, and that's enough. Along about 3 in the morning, a ripple of music broke the night. Joe's fallen asleep at the TV again. May reached over to turn on the light, but the music kept getting louder, and the TV was quiet and cold. Leslie was playing the piano, and his fingers were agile and bold. A piano Tchaikovsky concerto, like water breaking over a dam. A river of ecstasy flowed through his hands, and each note cried out, "My am." Leslie is different, like everyone in the world. He's kind of awkward and kind of fragile, kind of graceful, kind of tough. He's kind of slow, he's kind of clever. He's just Leslie, and that's enough.
Thank you, Sept. A true story. Sorry, I'm a mess here. UUs don't have a creed. We don't have a list of things we all have to believe, because we have diverse beliefs here. But since the early 60s, when the Unitarians joined the Universalists, we've had a list of our principles which talk about our values. And I'm going to talk today about the first of those principles. Now, last year, those principles and more were wrapped up into a statement of our values. And the language of the first principle was changed a bit. I'm going to use in this sermon the words that we've used for the last 65 years, not because I want to cause trouble, though I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so that's okay, but because the words inherent worth and dignity have a long, meaningful, strong history from ancient times. And so I want to use those words. And our first principle read, we covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So inherent worth and dignity. Inherent, according to the dictionary, means permanent and inborn. Now, I have found this profoundly puzzling since the first time I ran into our first principle. 32 years ago, I went to my first UU service at the First Unitarian Church of Oakland, and over the door, front door as I went in, was a big banner with a restatement of our first principle. It said, "All are worthy, all are welcome." And I think it made me feel like most of you would feel. I felt really good about this, that people in this church thought I was worthy of respect and that I, for myself, was welcome there. But I had just come out of an abusive relationship where my partner was life-threatening to our baby and nasty and cruel to me. So it took me, I'm sure, less than 2 minutes to start thinking, wait a second, they think that he is worthy and he's welcome to come here. I don't know if I'm going to be safe in this church. And what about the people who are worse than him? What about the murderers and the rapists and the child molesters? They think those are worthy people? Doesn't behavior matter? And what are they all worthy of anyway? It was in that breath that I started thinking about this sermon, though I didn't set pen to paper for many years, because I was standing there thinking, this is not obviously true to me. Who would believe it? So, several years later, I started looking to find out where that principle came from. And it actually came from both our Unitarian and our Universalist roots. The Unitarians, from the very beginning, way back, didn't believe, rejected the concept of original sin. They said all babies are born good and worthy. It was even more obvious that the Universalists were involved because they believed in universal salvation. They believed that everyone had saving worth in the eyes of God because God was kind and loving and would never condemn any of his creation to hell for all eternity. So what we were worthy of was salvation, and the proof of that, according to the Universalists, was the kind and loving nature of God. So how did the Universalists deal with what was bothering me? The fact that very evil people apparently had enough worth to go to heaven. It's interesting, I've never heard that from a Universalist UU pulpit, but there were Universalists in Christianity all the way back to the beginning. Not very many, but they were there, especially scholars, so they wrote. And right from that time until the 19th century, they believed that if you were evil in your life on earth, when you died, you went to hell. And you paid for all your sins while you were there. And when you were all cleaned up, you met with God, who purified you when you went to heaven. So we were all saved. It just took a little longer for some of us. In the early 1800s, along came Hosea Ballou. Hosea Ballou was a scholar, a Universalist scholar and preacher, and then minister. And after a while, he started preaching that from what he'd read and from his own reason, he believed that living our lives on earth paid for any sins that we committed. And so, yeah, the way my life's going now, maybe. So he said, when you die, you go right to heaven. You meet God. God looks in you, purifies you when you go to heaven. And there were even people who thought when you died, you met God and went to heaven. So what's clear to me, I think I'm right, is that the Universalists were bothered by the same thing I was bothered by, that it wasn't really fair or rational or whatever, that all these evil people ended up in heaven, and so they fixed it. They had these things where each person, as they died, for some reason, got rid of the evil and went to heaven. So now we know what our first principle is, where it came from, a little bit about it. Is it true? The Universalists thought they'd proved it true, and that has a problem for our congregations, a few. First of all, they were Christians, and so their scripture was the Old Testament and the New Testament. And the term Old Testament God doesn't usually evoke in people the feeling of a kind and loving God. When God brought the Israelites into Canaan, he told them to kill absolutely everybody in a whole lot of cities. I'm sorry, I'm Italian on one side. And so they did. They annihilated whole cities worth of people. And he said to drive the others out and keep their land. It doesn't sound like a kindly and loving God, though some other places in the Old Testament there are statements that God is love. And it does sound like Gaza and the West Bank right now. At any rate, it wasn't convincing to me the Old Testament God was kind and loving. And I thought, well, let's go to the New Testament. Well, in the New Testament in Matthew says that at the end of days, Jesus will sit on a throne, and he will separate the sheep from the goats, the sheep being the righteous and the goats being the and the sheep will inherit the kingdom of God, and the goats will go to eternal damnation and punishment. So that also doesn't sound like the universalist picture. And I really don't know where they got it. Maybe some people on the internet said wishful thinking. I don't know. But we have another problem. We have diverse beliefs here. We're not all universalists. I'm an agnostic. I don't know if there is a God. My husband, he's an atheist. He knows there is no God. And then we have Muslims and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists and pagans and people who believe in spirit of all kinds. And some of those people, like the Hindus, for instance, from their own religious beliefs, believe in our first principle. Hindus believe that there's a divine spark in every person. That's why the greeting Namaste, the divine in me sees the divine in you. It's kind of strange they have a caste system, but nobody's perfect. Okay, so some of these people already believe in our first principle from their religious beliefs, but obviously not all of them. And I think if we checked and if people thought about it, we'd have a lot of people in our congregations who don't believe that God is a kind and loving, and that's why everyone has inherent worth. I think you'd be hard-pressed to prove inherent worth of all people. So if we can't, can we prove it's true? If we can't, that's really bad news because there are very big stakes here. It's not just in our first principle that the words inherent worth and dignity appear. They're right up front in the UN Declaration of Human Rights and just about every human rights document. And the UN Declaration explains right at the beginning that all human rights are based on the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and that if we want to have a civilization, then we have to uphold the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So it, of course, says, for instance, in the UN Declaration, that slavery is forbidden. Why? Because the people enslaved have the same worth and dignity as the enslavers, and that's an abomination. So we really need everyone to uphold our first principle. And you see in the world today what happens when they don't. In 2023, you saw the then Israeli Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, declare the siege of Gaza. He said, "We are fighting human animals, and we will act accordingly. There will be no food, no fuel, no electricity." He accorded no worth even to the babies in Gaza, and we know now how many of them died and how badly and why. And then we have our own administration. I don't know how many times Trump has said that immigrants are rapists and animals. And of course, he gives them no due process and no human rights unless the courts force him to. And if you look through history, you'll find that all the deep questions of morality and politics are founded on the question of inherent worth and dignity. Questions like who deserves health care and how humane do prisons have to be? And is it okay to torture terrorists for information? And of course, every discussion of racism, sexism, and homophobia. So we have to have everyone upholding our first principle with all of their hearts in order to save human rights and the morality of our civilization. And yet, what's the proof? Well, the philosophers knew that this was so from ancient times, from ancient Roman times, for instance. And they tried throughout the ages to prove our first principle. They wrote a lot, and I didn't read it all. I did skim a lot, And I finally found a paper that was just what I was looking for. It was written by a man named Louis Pochman. Pochman died in 2005, but he was a professor of philosophy emeritus from West Point. He was a visiting scholar at Berkeley, NYU, Cambridge University, and lots of other places. He was a minister of the Reformed Church of America, and he wrote over 100 textbooks and scholarly articles. And the one that I'm talking about was one where he gathered all the proofs of inherent worth and dignity from ancient times to today, of course with Kant in the middle there. And he tried to see whether those proofs were for real. He looked at them for logic of argument and rational basis. It was a very elegant paper, and he shredded every single one of them for lack of logic and rationality. And it wasn't just him. The other authors I found the same thing. They all admitted that if your religion taught you, like the Hindus did, that everyone had inherent worth and dignity, then you could argue that to other people logically, but that was only based on your illogical belief in your religion. They could not find a secular, logical, rational proof for inherent worth and dignity. They failed. So you can go home and try it yourself. I'm going to go on because there are some things that came out of psychology that are relevant here. But first I want to say that I, and probably all of you, believe that babies are born worthy and good. So then the question becomes, as my sermon's title goes, how inherent is worth? How permanent is it? If you do bad things, does it disappear, or is it always in you, even if no one can see it? Well, the person who changed everybody's in the Western Hemisphere's view of this was Sigmund Freud and his intellectual progeny. He said, if you're doing bad things, if you have disturbing behavior, it's because something has happened to you. And there's a cause. You can be treated by therapy, and you'll be cured, and then you'll be a worthy person. So Freud taught that there was no blame involved, and that at the end of the treatment, you would be full of inherent worth. He believed in inherent worth. This was in contradiction to the way people thought about before him and a lot of people after him, which was, you are what you do. So if you're the kind of person, and I know one like this, who all your whole life hurts people and enjoys it and never feels any remorse, then you are what you do. You're a bad person and you don't have worth. So these are the two possibilities. And which one is right? I would say you can't know who is right. You can't look inside a person who's been evil their whole life and see whether there's any worth in there. So that makes it a personal choice whether you believe in our first principle. And I'm going to give you answers from two people I really respect. One was my friend Eve Decker. I haven't seen her in years. She is a committed Western Buddhist and a very serious and wise woman. And she, when I laid out all this for her, she said she believed that everybody has a vulnerable and raw human heart. And that is the seat of our inherent worth and our possibility for redemption. So she believes in inherent worth, and that's her explanation. On the other side, I found a UU minister online a long time ago. His name is Bill Schultz. Bill Schultz was a congregational minister, then he was the head of our denomination for quite a while. Then he was head of Amnesty International for 12 years. And right now, he's a senior fellow at the Carr Center for Human Rights at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. And he's still a UU minister. And while he was at Amnesty, he met a lot of people who'd been tortured. He read reports with all the details. He stood in the rooms where people were tortured, and he talked to the torturers. And just before he left Amnesty, he was asked to give an invited lecture at our General Assembly, which he did. And in that lecture, he said that he didn't believe anymore in inherent worth because he had met people that he was sure had no worth. So, you can, if you believe in inherent worth, it could be that you've been sheltered and never seen what he saw. And you can spin a fairy tale of human moral character that he won't anymore. Or maybe inherent worth is there. You can take one or either of these very thoughtful responses, but I'm sure you'll want to make up your own when you decide what to do. And what do I believe? Ultimately, through and through, I'm a scientist, and I don't believe things that don't have enough proof for me to believe them. I have a lot of things in my life where I keep both answers and I don't decide, and this is one of them. So here I am talking about something and I haven't decided whether it's true. But when I was sort of poked on that stick for a long time, and you can tell I thought about it for a long time, I realized I didn't care if it was true. What I cared about was what happened if everyone didn't act as if it were true. We know what that leads to. It leads to poor people with no health care. It leads to people in our prisons being raped, not just by other prisoners, but by the guards who don't believe in the worth of this prisoner. It leads to war crimes and extraordinary rendition and black ops and torture. And of course, it leads to all the everyday instances of racism and sexism and homophobia. So we don't want that. We need everyone to treat everybody as if they had inherent worth and dignity. And since we can't prove our first principle, we're going to have to tell them what the consequences are if they don't. So I would, first of all, rewrite our first principle to what it should have been in the first place. We covenant to treat each person as if they had inherent worth and dignity. And when I looked, it was after I wrote that I found Reverend Schultz on the internet and read his lecture. And he came to the same conclusion, but he said it really in an interesting way. He said, we UUs need to assign each person worth and teach dignity. So I'm going to stop with my homily on the first principle right now, but I'm going to add a postscript, so your bagels are going to be another few minutes. Because I want to talk about how this relates to the political work that we personally are doing right now. We know there are all these human rights abuses in our country. I'm not going to go through them again. And we, most of us, a lot of us, as we can, are doing work to fix that. We have people here who do all kinds of things to bring out the vote, to change the Congress so that we can change what's going on. We go to big demonstrations and we say, I don't agree with this. And my favorite, and thanks to the people who set this up, we buy groceries for our neighbor, undocumented neighbors who are too afraid to go out of their houses to buy them, or who have lost their breadwinners to ICE. All of those things are really good things to do, and we need to keep doing them. But you've been sitting here for at least 20 minutes listening to me talk about the first principle. And the cause of all these human rights abuses we're seeing from the Trump administration and others is what we were talking about. People not believing in, not paying attention to the worth of other people. So how do we get the word out there so that people are all seeing that and thinking about it? What occurred to me was Martin Luther King Jr. He was a charismatic preacher, of course, and a minister. And he managed to make the immorality of racism what I would call a meme in society back then, in that everybody in the country was talking about it, and people abroad were talking about it, and we need to do that. So your homework, should you choose to accept it, is to go home and think of ideas for how we get that word out there, teach people what's going on really. Because if we go on the way we have been going, if we manage to turn the Congress around and get our own way, we'd be walking over the people on the other side, not convincing them. And our country would still be full of hate, and the next election might turn it back. We need to set up something so that everybody understands that they're not giving other people worth. So go home and find ideas and list a list of allies. Thank you. Amen, and blessed be.
I invite you all again to rise in body or in spirit as you are able, as we learn a brand new hymn. Don't worry, it's only 13 pages long. No. The tune is simple, and it's something like this. Give it a shot. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We are swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of free wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection, it be my crime. In humility I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We are swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, finding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We are swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We are swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We are swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We
and worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We are swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We are swimming to the other side.
Great song. Thank you, Zach. And fabulous service. Bring with you your questioning minds. It's wonderful to have questions, and I love the idea of us going home and promoting the worth of every person. So, please join with me in reading the words on the screens as I prepare to extinguish our chalice, as well as the flame in honor of Ted Lombard. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment, those we carry into our lives until we are together again. All of you in the sanctuary today are invited after the service for coffee, tea, and bagels, and conversation in our community room, Berg Hall. Also, all visitors and guests are enthusiastically invited to stop by our connecting center right through the double doors there for a chat. Remember to sign up to bring a potluck dinner for the auction, come for a movie at the church on Friday, and consider the New to UU program next Sunday. Of course, if you care to do so, remember to put your cash or check for the offering in the box at the back of the sanctuary.
It's important to think, and it's important to feel. So take a breath and feel your community around you, and then go out and think a bit. Go forth in love, go forth in peace. May it be so.